again, it's so good to have you with us. Listen to this. The Department of Trade and Industry will this week host the annual National Furniture Design Competition at the Design Indaba Expo in Cape Town. Well, the expo is part of the Department of Trade and Industry's initiative to encourage participation in the furniture industry as well as to promote design skills. So the Minister of Trade and Industry, Mr. Rob Davies, has said that the competition will benefit the industry and influence products manufactured locally. Here, to promote industrial growth and the use of local inputs such as wood and textiles. The Design Indaba, as you may know, recognizes graphic design, advertising, film, music, fashion design, industrial design, architecture, and so much more. It aims to offer visitors all South African products that are original, contemporary, and innovative. The winner of the 2016 Furniture Design Competition will be announced at the expo. Some lovely ideas for those who enjoy DIY as well. Going to that expo, you just kind of look at what you could do and replicate at home. So very exciting indeed. All right, let's turn our attention to this story, and it's something that's going to dominate headlines in the build-up to the local government elections that are just around the corner. The risk associated with being a councillor has led to municipalities spending money on security. Now, councillors have now resorted to using personal security services to protect themselves from angry and violent communities. In the past 3 years, a special risk insurance for councillors paid out 144 million rand from 348 claims for damaged properties. Well, ahead of this year's local government polls, basic services protests are expected to be on the increase. So let's talk a little bit more about this. We're joined now by Seana Nkhahle from SALGA. A very good morning to you, sir, and a warm welcome to Morning Live.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Let's first discuss this phenomenon. Why private security officials? Are SAPS officials inadequate or insufficient to deal with the security threats faced by councillors?
Yeah. No, they're not all entirely inadequate. There are, in fact, some municipalities that use the services of the country's police services, especially in the bigger cities where they use their metropolitan police services. In others where those find themselves stretched because they are dealing with a whole lot of other crime scenes and enforcement of the law, we often do find ourselves having to complement that with private security services.
But not every councillor is entitled to private security services. What is the criteria? How do you decide which councillor deserves one and which doesn't?
Yeah, that's correct. Not all of them. In fact, there's a very limited number that do actually have this private security afforded to them. There is a risk assessment that is done on a case-by-case basis depending on the environment within which each of those councillors operate. This assessment is done independently by the South African Police Service, working together with crime intelligence services as well, and on the merits of the environment and the assessment that have been made, they then make recommendations which we then execute.
Do you then go back after a certain amount of time to assess whether or not the risk still exists or whether or not you can withdraw the private security officials there? And I say this because I know such processes can be open to abuse. So how do you make sure that the measures are in place to curb any abuse of power and any abuse of this right that councillors have, and to make sure that there's an ongoing assessment?
Yeah, indeed, there is a need to go back periodically to do the reassessments, and in fact, many of them are on a limited time basis, and once that threat is over, the security services are withdrawn. There are certain categories of councillors that enjoy a slightly longer service, like mayors and other senior councillors who are provided that kind of security on an ongoing basis.
You know, one school of thought would suggest that if you deliver and you do your jobs, you have no need to fear your community. There's no need for private security. Would you believe that that would be true?
I think there's a balancing act. There's an element of truth in that as well. And we have been quite upfront that we need to get ourselves in an environment where we do not need so much security, especially for our councillors. We are in an unfortunate situation where I think many parts of our society are under constant threat of violence and attacks on them for a whole range of reasons. And councillors find themselves as one of those members of community that find themselves in a slightly more heightened risk. But the more they deliver, the more they interact with their communities, the more they enhance communications with all the stakeholders, particularly the communities that they lead. I think the risk does come down. In fact, in other instances, there's even been arguments that if that relationship is well, then the very communities will protect them.
Exactly. Because I think that community buy-in is crucial, even when politics come to play. Because I'm not going to pretend to be naive about this. I know sometimes there can be a political element to service delivery protests. But my understanding is that if I'm delivering, if I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, my very community will rise up against whatever element is trying to attack me and say, not in our watch. So-and-so is doing their job. Because there's something inherently wrong about protecting yourself from the very people you're supposed to be working with and serving. So there's a breakdown in the relationship there. How do we solve the root causes? What do you say to your councillors to deal with the root and not just the fruit or the manifestation of that problem that then requires private security?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of systemic issues, both at a country level as well as at a municipal and community level. At a country level, we just need to address the violence that we see all around us. You know, violence against councillors is a very small part of this general violence that we're seeing. We've seen in many other instances violent crime. You know, that has got nothing to do with municipalities or councillors themselves. We've seen where it comes to municipalities, protests which are protected by law through the Constitution and other subsidiary laws, where they then turn violent.
Yeah.
There's violence which others have referred to as xenophobia, etc., etc. So if we are able to address those at a societal level, then the risk against councillors also comes down.
We have run out of time, but I quickly want a yes-no answer from you. We are heading up to the local government elections. Are we seeing an increase in the paying of private security officials to protect councillors? Yes, no?
Unfortunately, that might happen. It's not necessarily a given. We're hoping that will
So it hasn't happened yet?
It hasn't
We're not
happened.
paying more for security for councillors?
Not too much.
Not yet. Not too much?
There is payment for, there is increase in security over time. But we don't anticipate it to increase exorbitantly over the next couple of months.
But there will be an increase, just not exorbitant.
Hopefully.
You're being a politician. All right, let's leave it there for now. Thank you so much. It is an ongoing problem, and I think you are right that it is just a manifestation or a symptom of the violent times that we're living in. As we build up to the elections, we'll continue to have similar discussions and perhaps have you a little bit closer to the time as well of the polls. That it will be about 3 months after May. That's when President Jacob Zuma said we should expect the date to be announced pretty soon. Let's leave it there for the time being. More in just a moment. Stay with us.